You know, when Joe Biden was president, I went to a couple of things at the White House at different points in time, and I stood in a very particular spot that people watching see on their screen right now. This is, it's one of the many entrances. I believe this one is sort of like between the White House and the Eisenhower Executive Office building. When I was there, no one was speaking in tongues, no one was praying. But this is a very different White House. A group with Donald Trump's faith office was indeed praying and speaking in tongues at the White House in the same spot I've stood a few times before. If you're not familiar with what it means to speak in tongues, it's also known as glossolalia. Glossolalia. Not totally sure about the pronunciation. And this is a sort of speaking in a language unknown to you. They go skabada-bee-bada-bee-bada, so stuff like this. And it's often Pentecostal Christians that do it, or in what are called charismatic Christian traditions. Charismatic has a specific meaning in this context. It's not like, wow, what a charismatic person. But the idea is that the Holy Spirit is inside of you, and it is forcing these utterances in a language, stuff like this. So this is what happened at the White House, and this is the White House under Trump. It does sound like a medical event. It does sound like a stroke of some kind. So you'll hear the two women sort of primarily leading the prayer, and then in the background you'll hear people who I guess are not having a medical emergency. They are speaking in tongues.
We just thank you right now, Lord, from the east, the west, the north, and the south. You will shake America with your power and your glory. We cancel every assignment of the enemy. This nation was...
You hear that? Sada-bada-bada-bada-bada. That's the... I know it might not sound like it if you go sada-bada-bada-bada. That is the Holy Spirit inside of you, forcing out these statements.
To be one nation under God, and we are standing on the soil of the White House, and we are declaring your word. Every place that our foot will trod, you will give it to us, and we are taking the land. We thank you, O Lord. You have brought us to the kingdom for a time such as this, and this is the time. And so we declare right now from the capital of our nation,
not later, mind you, they're declaring it right now,
that America will come back to God. We will come back to God. Nothing will stop this nation. And we speak right now by the authority of heaven. You told us to bring heaven to earth. Heaven is being released through your people right.
This is not a parody. I know there are people in my audience who just will say, David, I'm just listening today. I don't believe those people are really at the White House. I believe that this is some kind of SNL skit. This is not a sketch, a skit, or a parody. This is the White House under Donald Trump. Now, I don't, the irony is not lost on me, but it seems lost on these people that Iran, which has been in the news so much this week, Iran is run by radical theocrats, religious extremists. It is. But these people would turn the United States into a Christian version of that radical Iranian theocracy. It's just another flavor of it. These are not just visitors, by the way. These women, this group that it panned to. This is part of Donald Trump's religious outreach, officially tied to the administration, the faith office. And this is what they're doing in the seat of American government. Now, if you've ever been around charismatic Christian rituals, this it sounds like these are medical emergencies, a seizure, a stroke, something that warrants a call for help. But this is something being celebrated by Donald Trump's faith office. And, for all of the discussion as to, do we have separation of church and state or don't we? When we criticize Iran for being run by radical theocrats that suppress dissent and enforce religious morality and claim that their power comes from God, then we say this is okay when it is just a version of Christianity that wants to enforce religious morality as civil law and says that their power and their motivation and all of it also comes from God. What's the difference? Okay. But this is a little bit of a different administration in the sense that these people don't just believe the United States is a Christian nation. They believe that God literally put Trump in power, that Trump was quite literally selected out of anyone to be the president. And they want laws on abortion based on their religion. They want laws on LGBT rights. Education should be based on their religion. Immigration should be based on their religion. Let's let Christians come, but not others. All of this is dictated by that belief about civil law. This is why Trump's administration slashed reproductive rights, banned books, erased trans health care protections, declared that church groups should have more political power rather than less. It's not just because of policy, but there are people who believe Trump is doing God's work. So this is absurd. This is ridiculous, but it's also very dangerous because these are not random people in a church basement. This is the faith office at the White House in power. They don't want a democracy, or if they do, they want a democracy where Christians are the ones that get votes, which isn't really a democracy, is it? They want a Christian version of Iran. And that should scare everybody who believes in what the founders actually intended. You know, for weeks now, discussions have focused on Trump's big, beautiful bill and its potential Medicaid cuts. However, a far more dangerous, overlooked provision in the bill exists. At ground.news/Pacman, you'll discover what MAGA lawmakers quietly included, a provision that could block federal judges from enforcing court orders unless a bond is posted. And if this passes, it could render Trump above the law. This is a critical detail. It's largely unknown, and it really exemplifies this flood the zone strategy of the Trump administration. Now, this is why Ground News is essential. It really is the best way to uncover buried information by showing you not just the story, but its origins across the political spectrum. You can see bias ratings, credibility scores, coverage timelines, and their browser extension also will flag potential bias when you're on a news site, sort of guiding you to more reliable sources for fact checking. Ground News gives you a smarter and more reliable way to stay informed. I'm partnering with them to give you 40% off their unlimited Vantage plan, which makes it just $5 a month. Visit ground.news/Pacman, scan the QR code, or use the code Pacman in the app to start. The link is in the description.